Welcome back to the Real Femme Sapien YouTube channel where I give cultural commentary. Today we are going to be talking about feeling like a loser mom, because that's not really something that I struggle with, but it's something that I see a lot of women struggle with, and I can understand given some of the content that is out there. There's a lot of pushback and denigration against moms from the left, the right, and definitely from red pillars too. So I could see how women could take in these messages and get really down on themselves. Women are the emotional thermostat for the home. We control the temperature. We can dial it up, we can dial it down, just based on how we're feeling. So if you're letting bad ideas and bad narratives from social media into your mind, it can trickle out into your home and make everyone's day worse, make you funky, your husband funky, your kids funky, and we just don't need to be doing that. I've been on social media for several years now, so I've learned how to guard my mind in certain areas, but that's also why I'm gonna make this content for the homemakers. And hopefully you guys can get some tips and tricks along the way, and maybe this uplifts your day. So if you like this content, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, subscribe down below, and hit the notification bell. I can say that it's totally understandable why some moms feel like losers. Now, some women do genuinely need to get their act together. If you're feeling like a loser because you are a loser, maybe there's something to work on here. However, there are a lot of women out there who are doing great and they're just really hard on themselves. I don't often have social interactions where someone is denigrating motherhood in front of me or isn't at least at the bare minimum in support of motherhood. And that is a point that I want to bring up to you guys. You have to be mindful of the company that you keep. I am not telling Christian, conservative, married wives and moms if you fall into that demographic. If you don't, I'm happy you're here. I'm not telling you ladies not to be friends with single and childless women. There are individuals and then there's groups. Single and childless women as a group seem to be pretty problematic, but on an individual level, you might run into some here and there that aren't problematic at all, that could really bless your life and you could bless their life. I have single and childless girlfriends, but the difference between them and some of the other ones is that they don't have a disdain for motherhood. They don't make me feel weird about the fact that I am a mom, or they don't attempt to make me feel weird about being a mom. Because in all actuality, we control our emotions and our reactions, but you could remove yourself from social situations that are causing you to have a poor self-image that is not rooted in reality. I think just recently I had an exchange with a woman to where the aura that I was getting, the impression I was getting, it was kind of that individual looking at my life, looking at me being a mom, and basically kind of saying, there isn't much else to you, is there? And I am actually totally okay with most of who I am in this season of life being a mom. I'm a wife and a Christian first, but I don't know where women have gotten this idea where, well, I'm just a mom. We have a very sick culture right now. Motherhood is such a holy work, so is homemaking, so is being a wife. These things are so important to God. And we live in a sick culture that says it's not important, but that is a lie from Satan. So when you're having people chiming in and you're feeling bad about yourself and you're taking that bad self-esteem back into your home, it can cause you to lash out against your husband or your children or even friends, family, acquaintances, and you just don't need the negative energy. So I would urge you to reevaluate some of your friendships. I'm not the kind of person to say, just cut them off. You don't need them ever again. Burn the bridge, burn it down. I wouldn't say that. I would just say, maybe have a conversation with your husband about some of your friends and how they're impacting your psyche and what he thinks about the quality of those friendships, because he could be really informative and see something that you might not. He also could tell you to your face, honey, I love you, but you're tripping. I don't think Sarah was that offensive. She's always been really kind to you. It seems like you're in your feelings about something else. Because, you know, women can be emotional. We can be desirous of burning bridges where we don't need to. We just need time to sit down and relax. Homemakers have been homemaking since the beginning of recorded history, but it's only within the past 50 years that now, if you're a woman and you're a homemaker instead of a single and childless woman with a PhD, and I don't even want to say PhD. Sometimes it's just a bachelor's degree. Like, people just don't want to see you have a family. So if you are a homemaker young versus like just being a student in school and being single and childless, people kind of look down on that. You have to always be mindful of how sick our culture is. So if you're the weird one in our culture today, you're probably doing something right. Only 1 out of every 4 wives is a homemaker, so you're already the odd one out. Where I am at on a local level, I have a lot of homemakers around me, and that's something that I would urge people to consider. Look at your zip code. If there is a population of less than 100,000 people in your town, you probably could afford to be a stay-at-home mom, but it becomes more and more expensive if you want to live in a metropolitan area. There is a reason why American homemakers are typecast as Midwestern, and that is because property is cheaper here. The cost of living is lower here. I hope it stays that way. The fact that I live around so many other homemakers is really helpful because I have a community. I have a village. I have that village that all the women say that they want, and I can tell you it's a really beautiful and wonderful thing. Yes, most of that comes from the fact that I have a vibrant church family life, but there are a lot of homemakers in my zip code in general. I've traveled across the country and I just haven't seen this amount of homemakers within walking distance ever in my life. But I'm really grateful for the fact that I live here because it's a very kid-forward place. There's not as much antinatalism in the air as if I went to somewhere like New York City, which I would never. Let's get into some other points here. Next one, stop expecting modern validation for ancient work. You are not going to be praised and thanked in a traditional manner as a wife and a mother. And by traditional manner, I'm talking about how in modernity, if you're a woman that does a good job, typically it's in a workplace setting and they'll give you an award or they'll give you a shout out or they'll give you like a gift card. If you're a homemaker, you're not getting any awards or trophies. Okay, and if you are waiting for your award or trophy and it's never going to come, you are going to feel negatively about being a mom because you're waiting for this reward that's not on the way. And I do think it's important for husbands and children to be grateful to wives and moms who are homemakers, or just wives and moms in general. In some capacities, they just cannot be. A 2-year-old cannot be grateful in the way that your adult child might be able to be. And your husband could be expressing gratitude in ways that you're not noticing. So you might be thinking to yourself that he's not grateful at all, but I would encourage women to see what your husband is doing that appears or could be gratuitous from his perspective. Because there have been moments in my life where my husband has done something or gotten something from me and I would be perplexed and I would be wondering, why is he doing this thing? And I would sit with it and I would ponder and I would observe, and then eventually I would land on the conclusion that he did this unusual thing or got me this unusual gift as an expression of love to me, and then I would come to really enjoy the expression of love, whether it was an interaction or an item, and it would give me that context to say, oh, you really do notice me. But it's not at all in the way that I would communicate me noticing him, or even how a woman would communicate that she notices another woman. So look for signs that your husband is gratuitous. You're not gonna get the Employee of the Month plaque. However, if you think about it, if you're a mom, you are the Employee of the Month every month, right? You are the best mom available to your children because you were the only mom available to your children. Next point, if you are feeling like a loser mom, is it because you are not trying to do the hard things? You can travel with your kids. This is something that I've done when I'm newly postpartum, or even when I'm not newly postpartum. It's just I travel a little bit more. I got hotter feet, because that's what it's called when you need to get out. It's called hot feet. I have hotter feet when I am newly postpartum because I don't like to be hormonal and indoors for extended periods of time. So I like to get out there and whenever I'm healed enough to do so. But even beside that, I don't listen to all these complaints that people have about kids traveling. My children exist. We want to go on vacation. If we want to go on vacation, we can buy their plane tickets, our plane tickets, and take our kids wherever we want to take them. If people want to moan and groan and cry and complain because my children are out in public and they're acting like children, well then, that sounds like a them problem. Here's the thing, well-adjusted adults don't just happen, they're raised. And if you never take your kids out into society, how are they supposed to learn how to function respectfully in public? And this is a lot of my pushback when it comes to the antinatalists. Quite frankly, I find them ungrateful. When somebody is dogging on you for having children or being a wife or a mom, whether that be in real life or online, although I would say that if it's happening in real life, you probably got to change your friend group. If somebody's dogging on you, keep this in mind. The people that are single and childless today, who are adults, most of them are not going to save for retirement. That means that our children that we are birthing are going to have to economically support this elderly population that did not contribute humans to the economic system. Now, bare bones, that's not very spiritual, that's not a very rewarding sentiment, but I'm saying practically speaking, these people have written a check that they expect your kids to cash, but then they want to come to you and make fun of you for being a wife and a mom. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. Thank you very much. So if you're feeling like a loser mom, maybe you're not doing the hard things that are required in order to get out of the house or to travel or whatever is going to make you feel like you have autonomy, because you do, especially if you're a homemaker. You have so much autonomy. When I want to feel like an autonomous mom, if I feel like I am losing my sense of self, which is very rare, but it can happen, I go on a run and I listen to music from when I was a teenager. It takes me back to a time and place a long time ago, and I get to enjoy the sunlight, the fresh air, the animals. I live in the Midwest, so I get to enjoy nature, and it's just me and my 2 feet. And when it comes to running, I compete with my past self. I'm not competing with anyone else. It is just something that is totally and completely mine, and I get to just turn my brain off and enjoy myself. Now, that could be other things for other women. My point is whatever your hard thing is that you want to achieve, go out there and get after it. And yes, I do think that going on vacation with small children is going out there and getting after it, because I have done it. It's always been worth it, but it has been hard work. Next point, reject the productivity gospel. You are not a better wife and mom if you are working yourself to the bone to the degree that it makes you contentious with others in your household. So if you are measuring whether or not you're a good enough wife or mom by how much you get done in a day, and you're not doing it with a joyful spirit, or you are doing things that people are not even asking you to do, this emotional labor thing that women talk about all the time, a lot of it is just stuff that we make up in our mind that we have to keep track of, that literally no one cares. No one cares. Your husband doesn't care. Your kids don't care. You care. And sometimes that's enough of a reason to pursue something, is if you care. But don't get mad at other people if they are not like throwing themselves on the floor on their hands and knees praising you for getting this stuff done because you were able to color code the gift wrapping with the bow and the sticker and the lace for Christmas. Relax, girlfriend. You don't have to try to force yourself to be hyper productive in areas that are not as essential, but you also don't have to be working yourself to the bone. That's the cool thing about being a homemaker, is that you have autonomy over your schedule and over your life. I know that people say kids take away your autonomy, and in some instances that is true. However, if you're willing to do the hard things, they can't really stop you, right? Unless one of them gets sick out of nowhere, which has happened to me. Let's end on something positive here. If you're feeling like a loser wife and mom, and that's rooted in reality, maybe you are low on a social hierarchy that you don't want to be low in, and that's kind of complicated, because if you choose to be a wife and a mom, you're going to go down a rung in our wonderful culture. But if you choose to be a homemaker, you're going to go down a couple of rungs. However, I'm saying that there are hierarchies of competency that are out there in the world. And if you are feeling like a loser wife and mom, maybe because you're not very good at being a wife or being a mom, these are skills, and these are skills that you can always improve if you put the reps in, if you put the time and the hours in. So if you are feeling like a loser wife and mom because you're fumbling the play day after day after day, you can get your bearings with you, and you don't have to stay a loser. You can become a wonderful, awesome wife and mom that people will talk about beyond your lifetime. Motherhood and wifehood are holy work. They are eternal work. The fruits of your labor, which you can't always see now, so it can be discouraging. You can't see them in the present moment. But once you have passed and you have adult functioning children and lots of grandbabies and they are being raised well in a better way than you were raised when you were a child, I mean, at that point you've won, especially if you are making disciples out of your children. That is work that is going to ripple out into the universe far after you are removed from it. So keep that in mind. You're doing great things out here, ladies. If you have some homemaker haters in your life, you don't have to live that way. I have 0 homemaker haters in my life. And if I did come across 1 or 2, like I said, I would pull back, kind of prune the friendship tree a little bit. It is very wonderful to be with a group of women that are like-minded, that have similar values, similar faith, that hold wifehood and motherhood in high regard. For that was really hard for me to find. So I'm not gonna come out here and be like, just go to church. You'll figure it out if you just go to church. It's not that simple. You have to find a good church. And often the good churches are not necessarily in metropolitan cities, and they're not mega churches either. It's tough. So I will try to do a video in the future on how to find a good church. In the meantime, if you're a homemaker and you're watching this, I hope you felt encouraged in whatever you're lacking in today, and I hope that you crush it. So I will see you guys later.